One of these On shoes feel incredibly soft and easy to walk in, but the other is far more stable, and for a lot of people, it's actually the better choice. This is the On Cloudtilt, and this is the On Cloudnova Form 2, and even though they look quite similar, they feel completely different underfoot. Today I'm going to break down the cushioning, the fit, and the stability, so you know which one is exactly right for your walking. So let's start off with the differences. So we have a lighter shoe in the Cloudtilt, which is 266 grams in the size 9 men's US, and it has a 9mm difference in height from the back to the front of the shoe, whereas the Cloudnova comes in around 292 grams, so 26 grams heavier, and it has a 13mm difference from the back to the front. Now, typically we look for a higher drop shoe in walking shoes, as it just makes a smoother transition when you initiate contact with the ground. It helps with balance, helps with stability, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But first, I want to talk about the cushioning. So what you're going to feel underfoot when you walk in these shoes. Well, we've got two different types of cushioning and different volume as well. So we've got the CloudTec Phase in the On Cloudtilt, which is really soft, cushioned, pillow-like. So it's really focused on comfort overall, especially that slip-in feel when you initiate contact with the ground. Really wraps around your foot and feels lovely and soft and comfortable overall. Whether that impacts stability, I'll touch on later. But in contrast to that, we've got a much firmer, stiffer shoe in the Cloudnova, and that's partly due to a speed board that runs through the whole length of the shoe, which is a thick plastic board. It has some pros and cons, and in addition to that, the cushioning is actually very firm overall. So when you put pressure onto it, you feel resistance relatively soon. That has a big impact on the stability of the shoe and also the ground contact feel. And when we think about on top of the shoe, they're very different as well. So we've a slightly wider shoe in the toe box in the Cloudnova, and it's got a thinner, more breathable mesh. And in fact, it's one of the most breathable shoes that On Cloud do. So if you're going on holidays, traveling in the city, or you just live in a warmer climate, this is going to be a better option in terms of the fit and the breathability. But when it comes to convenience, you've got the speed laces in the Cloudtilt, which means that you can just slip in and go, whereas you've got a traditional lace housing system on the Cloudnova. Now that's partly got to do with the lockdown, which gives you a better wraparound and secure feel in the shoe, whereas the downside of getting the convenience of the Cloudtilt is that you're just not as locked into the shoe. It doesn't give you as secure of a fit. So some people might experience a little bit of heel slippage out of the back of the shoe if the fit isn't exactly right. Now it is a true to size and length, but it does taper a little bit in that toe box, so something to keep in mind if you need the wide fit in the shoe. And moving back down the shoe in terms of the stability elements of both shoes, well, we've got an extremely stable shoe in the Cloudnova Form 2. There's a number of reasons for that. The speedboard plate that we touched on earlier adds stiffness and rigidity to the shoe. We've got sidewalls which come up towards the midfoot on the outside and the inside of the shoe. Now their function is to wrap around the foot, help keep it centered in the shoe as you move. So it's like a modern form of arch support, except it's on both sides with the aim of keeping you centered. Think of it like in a bowling alley when they pull up the lanes on the sides. It just works on not allowing your foot to move outside the realm of the shoe. So it's a really subtle form of stability, but if people have sensitivity to rubbing spots, it's something to be aware of. They have smaller sidewalls on the Cloudtilt to add stability. Both of them have a wide base underneath the shoe. That increases the amount of contact that you have with the ground, making it inherently more stable. It is wider in the forefoot underneath your foot in the Cloudnova, whereas we still have a relatively broad base in the Cloudtilt. Now we have a bit more rigidity around the heel cup, so around your ankle on the Cloudnova, and that means that when you initiate contact with the ground, it helps to reduce those pronation moments or control those pronation moments in the ankle joint, whereas it's much more flexible and natural movement is facilitated in the On Cloudtilt. Finally, we've got a lot more sole flare in the Cloudnova as well, and that's where the sole comes out wider than where your foot sits in the shoe. So you can see that in the heel and in the forefoot. Again, that increases the amount of contact that you have with the ground, giving you a more stable feel overall. We have minimal sole flare on the Cloudtilt, and that helps to bring down the weight, but it means that it's just not as stable underfoot. And then when it comes to the performance or how it feels underfoot, whether you're using it as a lifestyle shoe or for walking, they couldn't be any more contrasting. So you have a much more aggressive forefoot rocker. So that's where the foot tilts upward, or the shoe tilts upward. So that facilitates a nice push-through phase in the gait cycle. The benefits of that is it means it's less work when you're walking, a smoother transition from heel to toe. It has more toe spring, which means that it tilts upward, and therefore your toes sit slightly elevated in the shoe. Again, that facilitates a nice push-off. Can be a problem if you've got sensitivity in the big toe joint or the ball of the foot because of the flexibility of this shoe, the softness underfoot. The narrow toe box means it's not ideal for some conditions like hallux rigidus, bunions, or Morton's neuroma. In contrast to that, we've got a flatter shoe with a gentle rocker in the Cloudnova 2. It's extremely stiff underfoot thanks to that speed board, so it gives elasticated feel when it tries to push you off, but it just gives that resistance underfoot as well to add extra elements of protection. Now, it has much more ground contact feel because it doesn't have as much cushioning, so it doesn't feel like you're as high off the ground, and it feels much more stable. Both of them have a relatively similar heel bevel, so you transition nicely from the back to the front of the shoe. And when it comes to their use cases, well, the ON Cloudtilt, I've used it for nearly 400 miles. You can see it's a little bit weathered, and as a result, it held up really well in terms of durability, minimal outsole rubber usage. It still has that softness underfoot, which is really comfortable, especially for the slip-in feel. I use it all the time for going to the shops for up to 5k or 3 mile walks, but I wouldn't go any further than that because it doesn't have the stability. It's a little bit too soft underfoot, and there's a little bit of heel slippage. So really good, convenient use shoe if you want a softer shoe, a classic neutral shoe that's really comfort focused. With the Cloudnova Form 2, there's a few elements that I really like about this. It has a good lockdown, has a really good ground contact feel. You don't feel like you're too far off the ground, making it feel really stable without being intrusive overall. Super breathable and a great fit on top. Now, ON Cloud have some of the best uppers on the market, and you can really see that in the Cloudnova Form 2. So you feel like you're actually getting some value for your money here. When it comes to stability, it's not very intrusive, but it is definitely present. So this is a shoe you could use for lifestyle use if you're walking around the city. If you want a shoe that you want to pack in your suitcase to go for city traveling, city walks, then this is an excellent option. Not a great option if you're not used to having less cushioning under your foot. If you're someone who wears max cushion shoes with a rocker bottom, this is going to feel completely different underfoot. So if you want to transition to a shoe like this, you need to do it very slowly over time. And this is something that I talk about in my monthly newsletter. That, latest shoe releases, and what shoes I can find on sale that I generally recommend to people. You can subscribe to it in the description below. So overall, this is more ground contact feel, more lifestyle use, better as a city shoe, urban use. This is more comfort focused and more convenient, but less stable overall. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have you tried these? Are you interested in them? Any questions that I haven't covered in terms of the topics? There's links to the shoes in the description if you want to check out the latest price on Amazon, which change all the time. Otherwise, if you watch the channel regularly and you haven't subscribed or you're new here, please consider it as it's a single thing that you can do for free that makes the biggest difference to our channel.